Hi children, good morning all. Last class we have discussed about interaction between the organism. There are two types of interaction, positive interaction and negative interaction, and its types also we have seen. And now I am going to start with the interspecific interaction or co-evolutionary dynamics. So in this first one is mimicry. It is a phenomena in which living organism modify its form, appearance, structure or behavior and looks like another living organism as a self-defense and increases the chance of its survival. That is called what? Mimicry. So mimicry, it is a thing that organism modify its form, appearance, structure or behavior and look like another living organism as a self-defense and increases the chance of its survival. Floral mimicry is for usually inviting pollinators, but animal mimicry is often productive. Mimicry is a result of evolutionary significance due to shape and sudden heritable mutation and preservation by natural selection. So, what is mimicry? As per the evolutionary point of mimicry, we can define mimicry as a evolutionary significance due to shape and sudden heritable mutation and preservation by natural selection. Example for mimicry: the plant Opyrus and arcade. The flower looks like a female insect to attract the male insect to get pollinated by the male insect, and it is otherwise called as floral mimicry. Okay, so it is a type of mimicry in which a type of orchid called Opyrus, this flower is look like a female insect. So when it is look like a female insect, automatically the male insects are attracted. So when the male insect think that there is a female insect and reach the female insect, but when sit over the flower, the pollen grains are stick over the male body and the pollination has taken place. So this is a type of mimicry, and this type of mimicry is called floral mimicry. So an example for floral mimicry is Opyrus and arcade. And Caroseum morosus, a stick insect or walking insect, it is a productive mimicry. And next one is Psyllium frondosum. It's a leaf insect, another example for productive mimicry. So next one is myrmecophily. Sometimes ants take their shelter on some trees such as mango, lychee, jamun, acacia, etc. These ants act as the bodyguards of the plant against any disturbing agent, and the plant in turn provide food and shelter to the ants. This phenomena is known as what? Myrmecophily. Example, acacia and acacia ant. So sometimes ant take their shelter on some trees like mango, lychee, jamun, acacia, like that trees. When both the lands living on those trees, the ants get food and shelter from the tree. Instead, they giving protection to the host plant. Okay, and this kind of interaction is called myrmecophily. And next one is co-evolution. The interaction between organisms, when continues for generation, involves reciprocal changes in genetic and morphological character of both organisms. This type of evolution is called co-evolution. It is a kind of co-adaptation and mutual change among interactive species. Example, corolla length and proboscis length of butterfly and moths. When corolla length has increased in flower, automatically and the proboscis, that is beak of the butterflies and moths, also increase. Then birds beak shape and flower shape and size. So birds beak shape is related with or coordinate with the flower shape and size. More examples: hornbills and birds of shrub juncles, slit size of pollinia of Apocynaceae members, and leg size of insects are example for coevolution. Next we are going to start with ecological adaptation. So children, so far we have discussed about various type of interaction, whether it is S positive interaction or negative interaction or interspecific interaction, all we have discussed. Now we are going to adaptations which we have seen in hydrophytes, mesophytes and xerophytes. In each we are going to see a morphological adaptation, physiological adaptation, biological adaptation, all adaptation we are going to for each. Hydrophytes, mesophytes, xerophytes, for all. The modification in the structure of organism to survive successfully in an environment are called adaptations of organisms. Okay, what is mean by adaptation? Any modification in the structure of organism. What for they have modification in their structure? To survive successfully in an environment. This is kind of changes are called adaptation of organism. Adaptations helps the organism to exist under the prevailing ecological habitat. Based on the habitats and the corresponding adaptation of plants, they are classified as hydrophytes, xerophytes, mesophytes, epiphytes and halophytes. Okay, classify the plants based on their habitats and their corresponding adaptations. So based on their habitat and corresponding adaptation, plants are classified into 5 types. They are hydrophytes, xerophytes, mesophytes, epiphytes and halophytes. Okay, hydrophytes, the plant which are living in water or wet places are called hydrophytes. You know very well, hydro means what? Water. If a plant live in water or in a wet place, it is called hydrophytes. According to their relation to water and air, they are subdivided into following categories: free floating hydrophytes, rooted floating hydrophytes, submerged floating hydrophytes, then rooted submerged hydrophytes, amphibious hydrophytes. Okay, so based on their relation according to their need of water, hydrophytes are divided into 5 major types. One is free floating hydrophytes. That means the entire plant afloat over the surface of water. And rooted floating hydrophytes, the roots are fixed inside the soil under the water. Okay, but the leaves and the leaves are float over the surface of water, and this is called what? Rooted floating hydrophytes. Next, submerged floating hydrophytes. The entire structure of the plant is under the water, and this is called what? Submerged floating hydrophytes. Rooted submerged hydrophytes, that means the plant is rooted in the soil underwater, but the entire structure of the plant is submerged inside the water. Then amphibious hydrophytes. Amphi means what? Both. That means the plant can be live in water as well as on the land, and this is called amphibious hydrophytes. See, free floating hydrophytes, already I said, anyhow we will go through one time and we'll see the example for each. Okay, these plants float freely on the surface of water. They remain in contact with water and air but not with the soil. So the free floating hydrophytes will not have any contact with the soil, but it contact with the air and water. Okay, example Eichhornia, Pistia and Wolffia. It is the smallest flowering plant. Second one is rooted floating hydrophytes. In these plants, the roots are fixed in mud, but their leaves and flowers are floating on the surface of water. These plants are in contact with soil, water and air. So this is have a contact with the soil, water and air. Example Nelumbo, Nymphea, Potamogeton and Marsilia are example for this. The next one is submerged floating hydrophytes. These plants are completely submerged in water and not in contact with the soil and air. Example Ceratophyllum and Articularia are example for submerged floating hydrophytes. Next, fourth one, rooted submerged hydrophytes. These plants are completely submerged in water and rooted in soil and not in contact with air. Example Hydrelia, Vallisneria, Isoids. Then amphibious hydrophytes, rooted emergent hydrophytes. These plants are adapted to both both aquatic and terrestrial mode of life. They grow in shallow water. Example Ranunculus, Typha and Sagittaria. Hygrophytes, the plants which can grow in moist, damp and shady places are called hygrophytes. Example Habenaria, that is an orchid, and Moses bryophytes, etc. Next we are going to see, now so far we have seen about the various types of hydrophytes based on the relation of water with the plants. Okay, now we are going to see the morphological adaptation of hydrophytes. What is mean by morphological adaptation? The morphology means what? External structure, that is the structure which develop externally to adapt in the water environment are called morphological adaptation. So what are the morphological adaptation? They have seen, they have in their roots. See, in hydrophytes, roots are totally absent in Wolffia, and Salvinia are poorly developed in Hydrilla or well developed in Ranunculus. So regarding root, some plants they don't have root at all. Some plants they have poorly developed roots. Sometimes they do have well developed roots. Okay, so Wolffia, Salvinia, they don't have any root at all, and Hydrilla poorly developed roots. Then Ranunculus well developed root. Then root caps are replaced by root packets. Example, Iconia. Usually in a terrestrial plant, the root tip is covered with root cap. Such a kind of root caps are absent in hydrophytes. Instead, they have a root packets. Example for this root packet bearing plants is Iconia. In stem, the stem is long, slender, spongy and flexible in submerged forms. In free floating forms, stem is thick, short, stoloniferous and spongy, and is rooted floating forms. It is a rhizome. So, okay, and hope you are clear this, children, because these are a simple concept, so you people can understand by learning itself. Okay. Next one is vegetative propagation is through runners, stolon, stem, root cutting, tubers, dormant apices on offsets. So this is what vegetative propagation. You know very well what is mean by vegetative propagation. That is, reproduction takes place through vegetative part of the plant such as roots, stem and leaves. So among this, vegetative propagation is through runners, stolon, stem and root cutting, or the various tuber, dormant apices and offset, of various type of vegetative reproduction. Let's see about leaves. See, the leaves are thin, long and ribbon shaped in Vallisneria, are long and linear in Potamogeton, are finely dissected in Ceratophyllum. So these are the structure of leaves seen in the hydrophytes. The floating leaves are large and flat as in Nymphia and Nelumbo. In Iconia and Traba, petioles become swollen and spongy. So floating leaves are large and flat as in Nymphia and Nelumbo. In Iconia and Trapha, petioles. Petiole, you know, no children, petioles are stalk of the leaves are called petioles, right? Okay, so here the petioles become swollen and spongy. In emergent form, the leaves show heterophyly. What is heterophyly? There should be two types of leaves. Okay, submerged leaves are dissected and aerial leaves are entire. So since it has two types of leaves, it is called as what? Heterophilous leaves. An example for heterophyly: Ranunculus, Limnophia, Heterophylla, Sagittaria. So these are about morphological character which we have seen in the root, stem and leaves of hydrophytes. Next we are going to see about the anatomical adaptation. Anatomical adaptation. What is mean by anatomy? The study of internal structure of plant or animal is called what? Anatomical adaptation. So in anatomical adaptation, so cuticle is either completely absent or if present it is thin and poorly developed. Usually cuticle either completely absent. Suppose in case if it is present, the cuticle is thin and poorly developed. And next one is single layer of epidermis is present, isn't it? Okay. So when you have seen the cross section of root, stem you will get only single layer of epidermis in the cross section or outer covering. It is called what? Epidermis. Cortex is well developed with parenchyma. In hydrophytes, below the epidermis, cortex is present as per its internal structure. So, if cortex is present, the cells are parenchyma. Since the parenchymatous cells present with a well developed space in between them, and the space in between the cells are filled with air. So these are called what? Parenchyma. That is the parenchyma which possesses a cavity and it's filled with air, and this is called what? Parenchyma. Okay, and vascular tissues are poorly developed. In emergent form, a vascular element or well developed. Okay, so vascular tissues are poorly developed. In emergent forms, vascular elements are well developed. What is vascular element? Xylem and phloem are called vascular elements. Next, mechanical tissues are generally absent except in some emergent form, pith cells or sclerenchymatous. Next, we are going to see about physiological adaptation of hydrophytes. Hydrophytes have the ability to withstand anaerobic conditions. They possess a special aerating organs. So then, as per the physiological adaptation of hydrophytes, have ability to withstand anaerobic condition. Okay, and they possess a special aerating organs in the condition to live in the condition of anaerobic condition. And then next, xerophytes. The plant which are living in dry or xeric conditions are known as xerophytes. Xerophytic habitat can be of two different types. They are physical dryness and physiological dryness. In physical dryness, in this habitat, soil has a little amount of water due to the inability of the soil to hold water because of the low rainfall. So, in physical dryness, the soil have the inability to hold water due to less amount of rainfall or low rainfall. And next one is physiological dryness. As per the physiological dryness, in this habitat, water is sufficiently present, but plants are unable to absorb the water because of the absence of capillary spaces. Example, plant in salty and acidic soil. So, if water is not present in the soil due to low rainfall, this is called physiological dryness. Water is present more, but the plant cannot absorb the water, and this is said to be water physiological dryness. So, based on adaptive characters, xerophytes are classified into three categories. They are ephemerals, succulents, and non-succulent plants. Okay. And what is ephemerals, non-succulent, succulent, all I'll discuss with you in my next class, children. And today's homework, morphological, physiological, anatomical characters of hydrophytes, and also types of hydrophytes. Explain the various types of hydrophytes as per the water dependent. Okay, children. So these two questions are the homework for you. Complete it and keep it. Okay. Okay, I'll get you back in my next class. Bye.